Welcome in to Anita on the Mark. Usually we're talking sports, but no. We're talking the Diddy trial like we have been for the past 2 weeks. And buckle up. I got my popcorn. I got my co-host, Nevin Shapiro. Also, Nev, we're recording this pretty late on a Wednesday night. So I poured myself a little glass of wine. I'm sure you don't mind. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing amazing, and I wish I was drinking with you, but I'm still on supervised release.
Okay, that's your problem, not mine.
Right.
But the reason I have the popcorn is because we've got a very special guest. You want to buckle up. You actually what you want to do is you want to pause this show, make your popcorn, pour yourself a glass of wine, because get ready. We've got an absolute stud. And wait, we have to share the story, right? Because and I have to rewind. A very, very good friend of mine here in the city. Her name is Nikki. I've known her for about 5 years. I met her in the city the other day. We're sitting there. I want to say it's like a Saturday afternoon. We're sipping on some Aperol Spritz. She's like, Anita, I'm watching your Diddy podcast, your Diddy show. It's amazing. It's so good. You should have my father on. I said, okay, who's your father, Nikki? I knew that he was an attorney, but she said, oh, Murray Richman. And I said, okay. She said, there's a documentary, a 3-part documentary out on him already. I'll send it to you. You could watch it and you can decide if you want to have him on. So what did I do? I watched like the first 5 minutes and I was like, oh, snap. Yeah, I want this dude on. So of course I immediately reached out to Nevin. I said, Nevin, I could get Murray Richman on. And what was your first response, Nevin?
I love this guy.
No, you said he's an absolute stud.
I said he's a stud, man.
You said he's a stud.
I'm telling you, I saw this one coming from a mile away. I love it.
So I was like, Nikki, we want him. And sure enough, we've got him. Murray, don't worry, Murray Richman joining the program tonight. Murray, how are you doing? So great to have you join us.
I'm still doing it after all these years. I'm doing this for a long period of time.
Yes, you have. Celebrity lawyer, defense attorney, from DMX to criminal family mobsters to politicians. The only thing I need to ask is, why didn't Diddy call you?
Well, I was on the last case, if you recall, when he was charged in the case with Jennifer Lopez. And I was representing Shine on that particular matter. Had you observed on Channel 5 News the other night, they had a recap of all the Diddy's previous conflicts with the law. And they had a segment where I was part of it. I was on the case. I know Diddy. I'm not going to comment about my views of Diddy, but I have certain views as to what the evidence has or has not shown in this particular case.
That's for sure. And that's what we're here to break it down. And again, we appreciate everyone who watches, subscribes to this show. Of course, you see me, hopefully you do, see me all over ESPN. I'm the point guard of this program. Nevin Shapiro, of course, served his time. He's out. He brings you that mental aspect, right? The psychology of what possibly Nevin could understand. I don't think any of us who haven't been in jail can understand in regard to what potentially P. Diddy's going through right now. And we always like to have an attorney, whether it's a defense attorney, a prosecutor, or even an FBI agent or an investigator, join us on the show. Because really, it's all about, once you're done watching our program, we want you to leave a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more in the know in regard to all that's happening.
Anita, I want you to know that Nevin is a hero as well known in the industry, frankly speaking, and a kind of an interesting character.
Who are you talking to? So Nevin and I, wait, Murray, Nevin and I went to college together. You want to talk about a hero? You want to talk about a stud? Nevin, how many times did people say to you and I, boy, if Anita and Nevin had a child, that he'd win how many gold medals in the Olympics?
Unlimited. The great white hope he or she would have been.
Murray, 2 Jews dominating the athletic environment at University of South Florida. You talk about studs. We were stud athletes at the University of South Florida back in the late 80s.
Late 80s, but I was a made guy in the 80s.
All right. So, well, first things first. You because our last episode we really established all that Nevin's been through, and really the significance as to why, and more the importance of why he's a part of this show and this podcast. I know you've done your due diligence in regard to Nevin. What are your thoughts in regards to what Nevin's been through?
I'd rather not. I've read a great deal about what Nevin was charged with. I read a great deal as to what the allegations were. I also read a great deal of how he ended up getting a conviction in this particular matter. And I just learned from Nevin that who his attorney was, a person I do know and I have respect for. Apparently, Nevin doesn't feel the same way. But look, anybody who's gone to jail and has spent some time in jail, I have sympathy for. I understand the circumstance. It's not pleasant. It's not, especially if you're a free-thinking man like he is. It's very cumbersome to survive in this matter. And I have many good friends, and I call them friends, who've done time. And frankly speaking, it's not an easy thing to do, and it's not an easy life to live, either during, before, or after. And my heart goes out to you. I understand. I'm not making light of it either. I have great respect for you.
Yeah, it's a mental game for sure, Anita. And I think that's the element that I bring for this podcast. Obviously, the guests that we've had on, such as Murray, who are just incredible legal minds and know this in their sleep. They forgot more about the law than most will ever know. But there's a mental aspect to what this guy Diddy's going through right now. And no attorney can speak on that who hasn't been inside, other than whatever they hear their clients sharing with them. But from a firsthand situation, and being in Brooklyn, specifically for North, where Diddy is and has been through the shoe, I was there. And it is a mental warfare with yourself. It's you and God.
Well, what we do know, and we haven't mentioned this in a minute, is the 5 criminal counts that Diddy is being charged for. 1 count of racketeering, conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, coercion, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. That's what he is on trial for. Murray, I know you've been following this trial. We're going to dive into all that has transpired on Tuesday and Wednesday, but up until this point, who do you feel? Do you feel the prosecution has a strong case? Do you think the defense has done a good job? Up until this point, what are your thoughts on the Diddy case?
Well, before I go to that point, you have to understand, it's much of the charges, it's the view of the beholder. It's like beauty, it's in the eyes of the beholder. The prosecution is alleging that as a result of the actions that Diddy take, he compelled her to do certain things with others, to wit, the male prostitutes and others, that comply with the federal statute requiring her to be forcibly, the Mann Act and the other related charges. That is not exactly what the prosecution hoped to bring out initially, but they are bringing it out now. On my initial view of the evidence, and that was up to really before you asked me to appear on your show, was that they haven't made out a prima facie case. A prima facie case is to establish the wrongdoing on a basis of the evidence leading up inexorably to the issue of the case that's being charged. Here we have a man who is a well-known actor, well-known public figure, who's been 3 times charged in other criminal matters and has gotten away with it a lot. He's the bad thing is the actions that he did with this young woman is a question as to whether or not he did it to compel her to do certain things, or was she doing it as part of a consensual relationship that participated in violence as part of their sexual working up situation. If it's merely an attack on her, or if it's merely an abuse of her, I don't believe that they've made out a prima facie case for a federal allegation. However, if persuaded, and if the jury is the only one who can determine that, not my view, lawyers view things differently. They view it very myopically. They very narrowly. they slim it down to the smallest slice, and they say you haven't made out a prima facie case. On the other hand, the juror says, well, it may not in your eyes, but certainly in my eyes, if the juror feels that the actions taken by Diddy created a situation that the woman was compelled to do certain things, and those things were to have sex with others, that's prostitution. And they forced her to do it. That's complying with the federal law, as I understand it. It's in the eyes of the beholder. And that's what they're going to be selling. In the final analysis, it's going to be in the summation. It's going to be in how the jury is doing it. You know, the feds know one thing. They know how to milk a case to the nth degree. They'll take the smallest item in a case and tear it apart and milk it and squeeze it until they get what they think is fair from their point of view. Don't necessarily believe that the government is always right. We have a tendency to feel that those are the guys who wear the white hats and are riding, the silver horse. The truth of the matter is they're just as corrupt as everybody else, emotionally, intellectually, and otherwise. And I think, Nevin, you can agree with that.
Oh, yes, he can.
Murray, listen, I love you. I mean, man, right, anyone who listens, man, and that's such a great point, Murray. And I'm glad you said it. I know what the facts are in my case, and I know what I've been through. And unfortunately for me, and this case isn't about me, but I'm going to use my own personal experience to comment on this matter that Diddy. People think that the government wears the white hat. That you're 100% right. Oh, they do no wrong. They're out to protect us. They're out to get whoever they can get. It's a conviction rate game, and it's a grid, and you know how that works. And I've seen it firsthand. I wish I didn't know what I know, but I do. And boy, you're spot on.
Along those lines, let me just continue along those lines. I was a young lawyer at one time, and it was a very long time ago when I was a young lawyer. I believe that every judge was wise. I believe that every DA fair and every lawyer competent. I was right somewhere along the line, but I'm not sure where. But the fact of the matter is, they put forth a case for various and sundry reasons, not necessarily to punish the guilty, but sometimes to make a point. And while I don't agree with our present federal administration, I do agree with one term, the fact that they use the word weaponizing the Justice Department. Both parties, be it Democratic or Republican, has weaponized the Justice Department and created situations where they go after people for other reasons other than violation of the criminal law. And they use everything for political purposes. Even the ability to let people go out of jail early. And that's one of the factors that's really troubling to me, especially in view of the evidence that came forth today in the case of the talk show hosts that were given the opportunity to walk away from a case after doing a year and a half out of a 10-year sentence.
It's interesting you say that, Murray, because our previous episode, we were talking about, the possibility that Trump, regardless of what happened, let's say, Diddy gets convicted guilty. There is some talk and speculation that Trump could pardon him. And that was a discussion that we had. And sure enough, there's been we were talking about it before the show, Nevin, 2 pardons this week.
Yeah, well, today, as of about 2 hours ago, Larry Hoover was given clemency. And this, he's one of the all-time well-renowned gangsters out of Chicago, legendary in many respects. And you could have never told me ever, or probably Murray, that Larry Hoover would ever have a chance at clemency and seeing the light of day. And he's out. And there's no knock. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but everything's on the table for anybody. So what I thought was an absolute guarantee Diddy could not get a pardon, I retract that statement. I think anything's possible.
Well, look, if the mayor of the city of New York can be given a whitewash, literally, and I don't mean anything in a derogatory sense as it may come out to sound like, anybody can be. And it's not just this administration. I would like to say it's just this administration. It's every administration. And it goes back for years. And it's troubling. It's troubling if you believe in the rule of law. And as I've gotten older, I believe less and less in the rule of law, and disappointingly so. And it's just not working.
Yeah.
Um,
Anita, excuse me, just to touch on Murray's point, and I don't want to make it about my case, but like I pled for 10 years. The judge gave me 20. Okay. I agreed to a plea for 10 years. She gave me 20. That's a 2.5 level upward departure. So I got caught up in the situation of where my case followed on the heels of Bernie Madoff and Scott Rothstein. So now right away, let's say, and I'm not saying I'm right, not right, this and that. But had that happened 2, 3 years prior, I get a 5 year sentence. But because they have to make an example, because now the world's screaming about Bernie Madoff, I get a 20-year sentence. It's the longest prison sentence in the history of New Jersey, white collar crime, in the history of New Jersey. Factual. But anyway, I digress.
and I want to and again I want to circle back to Diddy, because that's really what this podcast is about. And before we dive into the events that have taken place on Tuesday and Wednesday, Murray, every guest that we've had on, I have asked this question. Again, Nevin agreed to a plea deal where he thought he was going to get no more than 10 years and was given 20. Federal court, obviously the judge gets the from what I understand, again, you're the professional, I am not. The prosecution recommends what they think the plea deal should and what the sentence should be. The judge then decides, and everyone that we have had on has said if Diddy is found guilty, he's going to get the book thrown at him, because judges don't necessarily like, especially apparently what's being reported is that not only was he offered one, but two separate plea deals that he turned down. I guess my question to you is, do you feel that that was the right choice for Diddy to turn them down? And if he does get found guilty, do you believe that the judge is going to throw the book at him?
Not necessarily so. I have had many, and I've tried many federal cases. Look, I've tried upwards of 300 jury trials, and I don't think there's anybody in the country who's tried that many cases. But I'm old. I've been around a very long period of time. I've tried 73 federal cases. In some instances, the judge will go above what you have recommended as a result of refusing to take a plea. It depends upon also if you take the stand. If you take the stand and you're found guilty, notwithstanding the fact that you took the stand, the judge may enhance your sentence based upon the fact that if you took the stand and the jury didn't believe you, you obviously lied. And as a result, you are thereby subject to a greater punishment. I think you know that. However, I have had many cases where an offer was made, and the judge decided not to go forward and actually gave this guy a lower sentence after the trial. And in fact, in a federal narcotics case in the Southern District of New York, a judge who's noted for her very difficult sentencing gave my client 10 years less than he would have been, should have gotten based upon being convicted after trial, after turning down a plea. And then on another hand, I had a wise guy, and you know what that is, Nirvan. A wise guy who had a plea where he should have gotten 18 to 24 months, ended up with 52 months. So you can never judge what a judge is going to do based upon pleas or otherwise. It's not automatically based upon the fact that if you turn down a plea, he's going to get a higher sentence. That is not necessarily the case.
Well, I'll go back to my question then, and that is, P. Diddy's 55 years old, again, alleged, offered not one but two plea deals, turned them down, has oodles and noodles of money, so he's able to hire this, all-star defense team. Would you have done the same, Murray?
Well, I've done the same, hiring an all-star defense team. I would have had a different point of view as to what an all-star defense team actually is. And I would have had a different vantage point on handling the situation. Diddy does it public relations wise. He makes decisions based upon what the general public will perceive, not necessarily what the legal public will perceive. There are two different worlds we're living in. And he is not playing to the same judge as you and I are playing to. No, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think there's an automatic increase of a sentence by turning down a plea deal. Not in the Southern District or in New York. I can assure you of that. And that's where he's being tried, in the Southern District of New York.
But it sounds that you don't like, again, and Nevin, you can attest to this. You have been saying each and every episode, he's got the all-star dream team of defense teams, maybe better than what OJ had. Do you not agree with that, Murray?
Absolutely not. No word, Nevin. I love it. I knew Johnny Cochran, worked with Johnny Cochran. Johnny and I we did Puffy's last case. Johnny was on the case with me. There was a good guy. You had Ben Brofman on the last case with Puffy. You had Mike Backner on the guy. Ian Niles. That was our team. All five of us. The fact of the matter is, and he didn't get banged out at all. Remember, he was only charged with possession of a weapon. He was not charged with shooting the girls in question. So there's a different situation. And even
Shine
the one
got blasted. Shine got blasted for that. He didn't.
No, he didn't. He didn't. I spoke to Charlie Solomon. Charlie Solomon was the judge in question. Three people were shot. Now, the argument was at that particular time that Shine was taking the heat for Puffy, but that was not necessarily the truth. Shine did what he did. He was convicted of what he did and was charged. And he could have been banged out for shooting three people. 20 years would be a blessing. He got 10. He did 8.5. You didn't shoot anybody, did you? You did as much time as Shine, and you did more time than Shine.
Yeah.
So where do you think how did he get blasted? You got blasted. You got the shit kicked out of you. No one else did.
You're right about that.
No, I don't necessarily go with that. It's nice to act like a gentleman in the courtroom and say yes sir, no sir. But there's no such thing as a dream team. It's bullshit. Pardon my language.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
That's what we do here.
Hey, Murray, this is why I brought my popcorn. This is why I brought my popcorn tonight. All right, let's dive into the events that have taken place. Last time we left you with our episode, we were heading into Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully everybody had a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. I know I did. Court got back in session on Tuesday, and today, this is Wednesday. We're recording on Wednesday night. And so let's talk about what has transpired the last 2 days, right? Capricorn Clark. And Nevin, you and I have been texting about her. She's Diddy's assistant, testified that Combs kidnapped her at gunpoint, okay? Broke into the rapper Kid Cudi's home in a plot to kill him, arrived at her house to, of course, with a gun, told her that they were going to kill the rapper. Now, and again, went there, also told her that he was going to blow up his car. Now, the testimony could be crucial to the government's racketeering case. And Murray, I want to come back to you on this because if there's anything that we're hearing in regard to other analysis out there is that the prosecution is not proving their case in regard to racketeering. So it's a two-part question. Number one, A, do you agree with it? B, how much does Capricorn Clark's testimony from today help the prosecution in this regard?
I think it helps. The prosecution, don't ever shortchange the prosecution. They own the they own the game. They own the playing field. They own the judge. They own everything. And if you think you're getting a fair break, you're getting as close to fairness as you can hope to get. You have a situation where a man has been alleged to have been violent. Now, I'm not going to speak in favor of Puffy. I'm the last one in the world that will do that. But the fact of the matter is, he knows what he's faced with. He's under the perception that the jury is going to parse it out, going to say, you're guilty of A, B, and C, but you didn't do D. Therefore, you're not guilty of the entire charge. The jury is going to view that he committed crimes while may not be rise to the level that they would have hoped to see, sufficient to the level that would give them the indication that there's a probability of guilt. The book says they have to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Most people don't know what the concept of reasonable doubt is. They don't even know what the levels there are. If you get a tendency, my gut tells me that the guy did it, then he did it. The intellectual process of sophistication of making a decision is so arbitrary and so capricious as to be meaningless. So when you talk to jurors, you're talking of 12 people, and they're not necessarily the smartest people in the world. I love jurors. When they're a jury, I think they're the best people in the world. The minute they stop being a jury and they walk out and I got hit by a bus, I probably wouldn't stop to give them a glass of water. The reality is they're not the smartest people in the world. And I'm not going to make the jury the holy grail that exists. It is not a holy grail. And sometimes you go ahead there. I'm sorry.
No. Please, what you're saying is, I'm hanging on every
Spot
word.
on. It's
I'm
spot on.
hanging on every word. It's just, again, it's the racket, right? And Nevin, please jump in here, because you and I have had this discussion. This is episode 6. We've been talking about this for our previous 5 episodes, and that is when this isn't. We've been talking about, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. This
Yeah.
is, the prosecution is
Well, look at
building. They're
you.
building. Have they built enough, especially with Capricorn Clark's testimony?
I think they're laying the foundation, like the peanut gallery nationally. Whoa, we don't see the case. We don't see the case. You don't think this is going to be like a first inning, like 1 round fight? That's not how this works. They're laying the pieces. Like Cassie was an important figure, but she was to set the table. Now you're bringing in potential car explosions, Molotov cocktails. You're bringing in this girl yesterday, Capricorn Clark. She dismantled this guy. She dismantled the jury. Everyone, from based on reports, had their mouth wide open. Like, what? They're showing what a despicable person. This guy's a despicable piece of shit. Is he guilty of what they're charging him with? Becomes the question. But as a human being, he's despicable. He's deplorable. I mean, that's what it is. Do I think they're proving it? I think they're on their way. They are going deeper and deeper, and who knows who's next? Only the
Murray,
government knows what's behind curtain number 2.
Murray, how difficult is it to defend somebody who's this heinous?
Well, I'm not going to go with qualifying him as heinous or not heinous. He's being charged, and there's no question he's being charged. That's because of who he was. If he was just a regular Joe Blow, nobody would give a damn what he did, and they wouldn't care what he did to his girlfriend, and they wouldn't. But they have this guy who's a renowned artist, well known in the industry, has gone with beautiful women throughout, has done what he wanted, has made a mockery of the system as a whole, and they want to punish him. They want to punish him to say that you're not above the law. That's what they're trying to say. And remember how the court is set up. The prosecution opens, the prosecution closes, the defense goes after the prosecution, then the prosecution closes again. They have 2 bites of the apple. The defense does not have 2 bites of the apple at the end of the case. You're aware of that. That's the whole way it's structured is impossible. Now, the conviction rate in the federal court, especially in the Southern District, is 97.3%. Do you know that?
Wow.
Anita, what was the number I gave you? What was the number, Anita?
97.3. How's that one?
See, I gave you 90. I gave you 96, Anita. Take the over.
I gave you a point and a half over, right?
I got to be a sharp, wise guy, Murray. You know how it is.
I'm well aware of it. And the fact of the matter is, it's a situation where they come in contact with, as if they're saints. They come in contact with white gloves, and they kill you with kindness, and they kill you with their educated vowels and everything else. Where the defense, you're people are throwing crap at you, and your defense lawyer is putting up a shield to keep it from falling on you. And that's all you can possibly do. My concern is that the jury has come to conclusions far too early. I'm not going to tell you that he's a nice guy. I won't go that far. I won't come anywhere close to that. But I do believe everybody is entitled to a fair trial. And a fair trial means different things to different people. If a guy wins the case, it was a fair trial. If he didn't lose the case, it was a terribly unfair trial. I've had lawyer friends of mine go to jail in negative kind of situations and insist that they were railroaded. And I know, and they know, that there was not necessarily the case. And that's the way things are happening. I just don't think things are that simple. But have they made out their prima facie case? They could have rested after the first day and probably made it out from the point of view of some of the jurors. And yet, go ahead.
I want to bring up this other witness that did testify this week. LA arson investigator Lance Jimenez. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Investigated Kid Cudi's car after it was burned.
Yeah, the arson case.
Yes, and so the defense team argued about the prosecutor's questions about the destruction of fingerprints at the scene of Kid Cudi's car fire. Combs' defense team moved for a mistrial because of the questions, arguing that the court couldn't unring that bell, quote unquote. In other words, they would still be wondering whether Combs had something to do with it. I guess the line of questioning incorporated,
it's going to be denied. It's going to be denied.
Well, the judge did deny it, but talk about that move from the defense and why they would do that.
Let me tell you something. If you have someplace to hang your hat, you hang your hat. That's all it is. If you have anything going for you, you take the shot and see if it has anything going. You're trying to build a record of improprieties. You're trying to build a record of an unfair trial so that if you don't win on this level, you might win in the Court of Appeals. That's all you're doing. And to believe that your whole case is going to turn on some small piece of crap, you're fooling yourself. You can talk yourself into anything. You can believe anything you really want to believe. And you can, and the road to hell is paved with good intentions or good thoughts. It's wonderful. It's great. It's a great piece of evidence. You're going to hell. There's no question about it. You're dead.
Right. It's like a motion to dismiss. You just throw it out there, but it's not getting dismissed.
Yeah.
Deontay Nash, who is Cassie's stylist, also testified today. Quote unquote, he testified that her entire persona, wardrobe, hair, all controlled by Diddy. But more so, he'd actually heard Combs say, I'm going to beat you up. He had heard Combs say, I'm not going to release your music. He heard Combs say that he was actually going to get her parents fired from their job. Again, more testimony. Him and Cassie had to hide from Combs. He sent his staff and his team to go locate them. Prosecution, again, trying to boost their racketeering case. How strong is that testimony, Murray?
You're establishing the guy as a creep. You're establishing the guy as a lowlife. You've established that already. Now you want to make it worse. And the reality is the jury won't feel so bad if they say, "How the hell with it? Maybe he didn't do everything, but he's a bad guy. Let's get him off the streets." That's what's going through the jury's head. And that's what they're going into the prosecution. Don't believe that the prosecution really gives a damn whether a wrong has been accomplished or been done. They're looking to bloody up the streets and make them look bad. No matter what. They don't care whether it's true or not. They're going to make them look bad.
Nevin?
Sound familiar, Anita?
Yeah. Yes.
Sound familiar?
Yes.
So, Mother, thanks for validating everything I said from the beginning when we started this. Man, you're playing against some dirty motherfuckers, man. These guys are coming for blood, man. They're coming for blood. Make no mistake. And you know how I feel about the feds. I don't like them at all. They ruined my life. But I'm going to tell you something. They're coming from blood. They'll play dirty. They don't care how they're playing. They're getting a conviction.
But they do it in such a nice way that you're thinking they're doing it the right way. Yeah. They kill you with kindness and kill you nevertheless.
A very interesting conversation we had with our previous guest, and Nevin, if you can recall it probably better than I can, in regard to why they're going after Diddy, right? And the assumption was either they got somebody on a charge who said, "Hey, I can deliver Diddy," or it was somebody who Diddy pissed off who went to the feds who said, "Hey, I'm going to help you get Diddy."
Yeah.
Right. Like, wasn't that the conversation? Because I'm curious to get Murray's opinion on why Diddy, why now, why this.
I can tell you with a reasonable degree of certainty, but I can't tell you the reasons why I can say this. If they were after Diddy, even after the last case, the Southern District was, and the same very district we're talking about now. You have one, there's a racial factor, and it'll be disingenuous to suggest that the racial factor is not significant. Two, he's a person that brings attention to the case because of who he was. Let me give you a sideline on this. During the Puffy's last case, we had so much newspaper people in the courthouse, we couldn't walk through them. We couldn't even go to lunch because we had newspaper people from London and everything else blocking the hallways. We couldn't do a thing. I had just come off a case in Bronx County of the Secretary of Labor of the United States of America, Raymond Donovan, charged with a crime. The first sitting cabinet officer ever charged. We had newspaper people, maybe 20 of them, nowhere close to what we had in Diddy's last case. This is a celebrity. Whoever makes him or gets him becomes a celebrity too. The only way to become a giant killer is to kill a giant. And you can't kill a giant with nothing. So you have to kill him in any way you can. And this is what they're doing. They're doing what they have to do, a giant killing. And these are the nice, wonderful people that you would have your children want to marry. The prosecutor, whatever it is, they're wonderful, clean-cut human beings who went to the best schools, who will never do anything wrong except maybe taint the evidence a little bit. And that's what we're doing here. They're killing you with kindness. Am I right, Nevin?
Murray, I love you, man. He's so spot on, man. I mean, like, Anita, the general public has no idea. They just have no idea.
Well, now they're more in the know now. They're more in the know now after watching this show. That's for sure. And again, just a reminder, we appreciate you watching. Make sure you subscribe, watch. We have a lot more episodes coming your way. And by all means, please comment. I can't wait to see the comments after this.
About unbridled evil from that end. Evil.
Okay, a few things before we sign off. Number one, Combs' defense team says that they don't have enough time to discuss the case with him. So at the Metropolitan Detention Center, so they asked the judge to issue an order allowing them to use the room in the courthouse until 10 o'clock. This is something that Kathy, our second episode, we had a very dear friend of mine, Kathy Fleming, who joined us on the program. And she was talking about this, how difficult it is to be a defense attorney when you don't have a lot of time to sit down and review and go over and discuss and talk about the events of the day and how you're going to counter and all that. How frustrating is this for Diddy's team, Murray?
It's impossible. When you have a man in jail and he can't get out, you can't work with the man. It's impossible to understand what was going on. MDC has one lawyer's room where more than 3 lawyers can fit into. If you go into the lower level, there's the one in the far left. It holds 8 people at the same time. You may have a conference in that room, but you can't get everybody in the room, and you don't have access to that room all the time. That's the great facility available to prepare your case. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. When they're holding you and you don't have the right to come out and be there, you're not getting a defense at all. You're getting a supposition of hope, and maybe they'll hit on the right method. You got a high-priced team. They're competent lawyers. They'll do the best they can, and no matter what it is, win or lose, they're going to be criticized. One way or the other, they'll be criticized.
Anita, if you can remember, back to our very first podcast show, I said to you, I was in Brooklyn. I was in where he is, in the shoe. I was right there in the same spot. And it was so crucial that Diddy got bail and didn't. It was a game changer for him. Any shot he had left with him reaching out to witnesses or whatever he did to get himself denied bail. I'm telling you.
Tomorrow, again, we're taping this on a Wednesday night. So by the time you're watching this, this will be happening probably as you're watching. Unnamed members of the LA Police Department and LA Fire Department are going to testify on Thursday. So let your mind flow in regard to what that could be about, Benjamins. And so more on that. We have a federal agent who's going to be joining us for our podcast on Friday. That's going to be coming your way. So make sure you tune into that. Hopefully we'll have that posted late Friday night, if not first thing on Saturday morning. But Murray, it really has been a complete pleasure having you. Hence why I grabbed my bag of popcorn. Any final thoughts before we let you go, my friend?
Final comments. Look, I'm pro defense. I may not like the guy, but I'd rather see a winner than a loser. And yes, he did some terrible things, and I don't necessarily feel he should get a pass on it. But I don't like the use of the court system to get people you don't like. I don't like that. That's wrong. And if there's a wrong done for every wrong, there's a way of dealing with that wrong. But to go to the extent, do you know how much money must have been spent on preparing this case, getting the witnesses, flying them into the country, going over everything? No witness has not been seen at least 6 or 7 times by a
Give
U.S.
us an
attorney.
idea. Give us an idea, Murray. How much money do you think the government has spent on compiling this case against Diddy?
Literally in the millions of dollars. And I can think of a lot more serious situations that one would want to spend that kind of money in prosecuting. We're living in a world where we have our value system has been warped, and we don't know what's right and what's wrong anymore. I have various views as to how it should be handled, but I'm obviously too old to be have my views meaning anymore. There comes a time when you come to the conclusion that it's best to step aside and let the world go on as it is. There was a time when I spent my life being angry at the entire world as to see the injustices that were wrong, that were transpiring. I can't do anymore. As I've indicated to you at the outset, I've been practicing law 61 years. That's right, 61 years. And I'm looking for truth, justice in the American way. And maybe someday I'll find it. It hasn't happened yet.
Wow.
I don't even
Nevin?
know I don't even know how you close after that.
Yeah,
That's
I think we just
that's like going on stage after like the Rolling Stones or Led
I know.
Zeppelin.
I think we end right there, my friend.
We do. This
All
guy's
right.
incredible.
Again, I want to thank everybody for watching, subscribing. Our numbers have been tremendous, and please know how much we really appreciate it. We're here to recap the events that happened that day, the week of, and we bring in some of the best in the business, like Murray, of course. And coming your way Friday, we've got a former federal agent who's going to be joining us as well. Again, our goal is to make you wiser and you understand all that is transpiring here in the Diddy trial. Anita Marks, Nevin Shapiro, of course, Murray Richman, and good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.